Hi, my name is Michael Trout. You probably know me if you watch Animal Planet because I have a TV show called Killer Hornets from Hell that airs on Monster Week. I'm America's most famous hornet hunter. I'm not the baseball player, unfortunately. I live in Japan, just 2 hours away from Shanghai, but what I'm intensely passionate about is innovation and saving our planet that ultimately is being destroyed. Now, it's being destroyed and consumed basically because our business model is broken. And I figured this way back in 2012, and people are now just starting to get onto it. So back then I launched something called foundups. And foundups is basically to transform our current selfish, independent, top-down business model into a global cooperative. One thing, right? All together helping to save the planet. That's pretty much foundups is. The problem is, I lacked what I called back then as the Open Innovation Framework, OIF. I called it the Open Startup Innovation Framework until I found out and figured out that the startup is endemically flawed, not systemically flawed, which means you cannot fix the startup business model. Now let me explain what I mean by this. I'm not against the startup. I love startups. There's great startups out there. But the underlying business model that powers the startup basically is endemically flawed. And I'm not going to go into it now, but I have lots of talks on it, and you can explore it if you'd like and everything. So I needed a new framework. And what I wanted to build, and this framework would be something like Encarta, a top-down framework that ultimately would allow people to all come together under one roof and basically do their thing, right? And the problem is that if you develop this global cooperative, it disrupts the selfish cooperative that we have right now, which I call the selfish startup business model, or the selfish startup for short. And ultimately, the billions of dollars that are being made out of the system would be gone. So I needed a new platform. By 2012, Foundups was complete. I just needed to build it. I knew all the different parts to it. And I reached out to the Bitcoin community, and the person I met was Mihai. And I spent a lot of time with Mihai, and Matthews was in charge of a small little group called smallplan.et. I can't think of Matthew's first name. But I have it all in the document, right, that you can click on here and read. Now, I am making this document basically $100 for you to read, only because if you're the media and stuff, there's a story here. And if you want the backstory, you're going to pay for it, unfortunately, right? I think $100 to get access to my backstory is really, really cheap. But ultimately, this is going to help fund Foundups going forward, or if you want to support what I'm doing, that's great too. I'm a single guy. I don't have corporations behind me. I've got a group of folks behind me. I have friends who believe in me, and they have contributed over $10,000 to help me move forward to this point. And what I've learned just in the last week changes everything, okay? So, what is happening really is our first global cyber civil war. A cyber civil war is going on right now to the scope of a magnitude far bigger in regards to cost or anything else than the War of the Roses, to the American Civil War, whether it's the first one against Britain, right, in the War of Independence, or the second one, or it's even bigger than the war between Pakistan and India, and so on and so on and so on. The difference here, the war is on the blockchain. It is a dirty Game of Thrones type thing. It's going to be written up as a story, as a book. You're gonna watch it in the movies. It's that kind of caliber. Vitalik and all of these. There's the formations of a cartel and everything else. And ultimately, I wanted to share it with you today in my talking with you, because it is exciting and it changes everything. The blockchain has been taken over by the 1%. Okay, and because here's why. Fiat currencies are doomed. There's no way we can pay back our debt. All the financial institutions know that, and they're looking for an out. They're looking to hedge against the coming collapse of the currencies. It's coming, right? I don't know if it's going to come In 5 years, it can come in 10 years, but it's coming. There's no way to stop. They're going to have to reset. And the logical move is to move to the blockchain. And since Bitcoin has basically gained the paradigm shift, moving to that direction is not going to be an issue. Now, so Ethereum is basically, to those who don't understand what Ethereum is basically Bitcoin, which you're able to code on. It's a platform. And in 2012, I shared everything about what I called the Open Innovation Framework, how everything would work together. I could explain the picture, right? I knew, how the science would work and everything else. I didn't know that could be built on Bitcoin, right? That was brilliant. So that's kind of like what they did was built the Wikipedia version that I was trying to build. But the thing is I didn't give Mihai permission to take my IP and run with it and use it, okay? He did. I asked for him to actually give me credit and bring me on and everything, and basically they dropped me like a hot potato. And being a poor guy without any resource, and this is just part of the problem of being an entrepreneur, is there's really no out for me, right? To deal with the consequences of IP theft. And this is my baby. I spent years developing this. I share it with it, and the guy steals it and uses it and creates, Ethereum, similar name, right? After I got over the issue of the ego and stuff, I did realize, like, dude, these guys built what I need. Okay, this is actually an epic thing. This is a great thing. Now, the opportunity is to move forward with foundups. Well, when I brought it to the attention of one of my coders, we call him GI, because I call him the Grand Inquisition. He's the guy who looks into the code. He's a hardcore open source guy. And he's like, dude, Mike, I don't like what I'm seeing with Ethereum. This is 2014. They're very corporate heavy. I think they're going to sell out to corporations. Well, they're trying to sell out to Merrill Lynch, and it was blocked by someone else, right? Within their organization, it was blocked, and they weren't able to sell. Basically, what's happening is big banking and other things have taken over the blockchain, which was built for the people. It was built for the 99%. It was built for something called Consensus, not Consensus, the company that ultimately was founded by a billionaire, and now that founder is now the COO. So let me put this in context. It's kind of like Monsanto, right? Monsanto, basically, the founder of Monsanto, going over to the EPA and becoming the head of the EPA, right? That is just crazy, and there was really no consensus about him getting elected. The organization basically is a cartel that now has all these interests in hand. Now, how did all this happen, and why should it concern you? Well, I say basically too much. In June of this year, they put up what's known as the DAO code, and the DAO, it's Distributed Autonomous Organization, right? Runs on this blockchain, right? It's this thing of this huge network, right? All these little computers make up little parts of it. It's kind of like a decentralized hedge fund. There's no head on it. Well, they put all this money in here, and they coded it wrong, and it's kind of like the lottery. Someone figured out how to go in there and take $50 million. Well, that was $50 million of the cartel's money, right? So they convinced, and they pushed it really hard, and they got the community to roll back Ethereum, right? And a rollback is kind of like a setback. It's called a hard fork. It's a rollback. So you go back to a point before the hack, and then you go in that new direction. So everything that after that point, so all the mining that was done, all the work that was done, all the, is basically, sorry guys, you've lost it. It's not there anymore. Everything before that ultimately gets copied into two. So there was a benefit for them. It's like, okay, we get our money back, and not only that, all of our history, we've just doubled our money because we can, we've got all this other stuff, and then we could just tank. And they figured they would just sell off their ETC, tank the market, and everyone would move to the new chain, right? So let me put it in Game of Thrones terminology. Remember the kid, I can't think of his name right now, but the blacksmith kid, right, who's the rightful heir? That's classic. That's the original one. And he's innocent. It's not his fault that this thing happened, right? And all of a sudden, some bastard child is like, oh look, here's little fuckhead, right? Bring him on, and he becomes the legitimate. They go up and they just stab the heck out of Classic, and the cartel, call him the cartel, the little cartel guy. they figured, hey, we've won on all the money we made on the back. Now we didn't lose on the 50 million that was taken from us, and now we can continue on our agenda and what we're doing. And they just assumed that Classic would die, and that's ETC, right? Ethereum Classic versus Ethereum. So Ethereum Classic didn't die. Not only that, a hero, the former CEO of Ethereum Foundation, came over, a guy called Charles, and said, I can't think of his last name, and he says, I'm going to take care of this poor little kid. I know he's hurt. You know, the valuation basically tanked from over $1 billion down to $150,000, right, for Classic, whereas the valuation for Ethereum is pretty much the same thing. It's gone down a little bit, but pretty much the same thing. So, and then what happened was that triggered a civil war, because all of a sudden the rightful heir had a monarch, willing to defend it, and the new bastard and with the cartel realized that if this monarch legitimizes Classic, and what happened, legitimize means starts being shown on the exchanges, right? Because that's transactions, and they were showing that there's mining and everything else, and you can read the Forbes magazine on that. It would mean not the possible end, but the end of the cartel, right? So and the reason why there's been this big swing is kind of like the sorting of the shit that floats on top and the purity of the water. All of the shit basically went to Ethereum. All the special interest groups and everything else, you know, the 1% that has hijacked our blockchain is in the cartel. And that's the beautiful thing to me. It's like, oh shit, we've just got a clean cut. We know where our friends are. We know who we want to work with. It's the legitimate heir to the blockchain, which is Ethereum. So when this, and I didn't, that actually basically came out when I was working on getting myself to pitch at the convention. There's a convention coming on called DevCon 2012 in Shanghai. It is over there 2 hours, Shanghai. I literally live a pond hop over to Shanghai. That's how close I live, right, to it. And because of my history with Ethereum, the guy who runs the PR doesn't know the history, but everyone else within the core of Ethereum, they took my IP. My ideas. They used it to create Ethereum. And there's plenty of track record for anyone to look at and the correlation and everything else. And I even have a mock-up called the Foundup blockchain that I created in 2012 that physically shows all the parts that they describe in Ethereum today. And it's nothing what they described is new. It was invented by me back in 2012. So basically, sorry. So I saw an opportunity, since the event is just 2 hours away, for me to share foundups. Now, I didn't know all this cartel stuff going on. I knew the hack happened. I wasn't unaware like you are. It was, oh, this is just a bad guy. It's kind of like the white, oh, he's a bad guy, he did it. And it was, he just took advantage of the code, right? It was badly coded by, the folks who created the DAO, right? And he took advantage of it. So I figured, you know what? They're not going to let me pitch, even though I was on the schedule to pitch. I was on the consideration to pitch. And I said, you know what? I'm going to do my own conference. I had my own ideas. I could bring some attention. I could talk about, this, foundups and what happened to me and how it got to here, and then hopefully get supporters and basically do a crowd sell, all right, which is basically a fundraising campaign. So when I posted to someone's Facebook, it's like, hey, I'm working on this. It's just going to happen after the convention. The guy freaks out and he calls to the CEO, and I have this. You can go and click here and watch this. He screams and says, Luden, call me in 24 hours. Well, that's one of the members of the cartel yelling at the COO to basically get hold of him to talk about this, right? do you yell at a CEO? I mean, who yells at a COO to contact them within 24 hours, right? Well, only if that COO works for you, and you may not be there in the forefront, right? But you're there in the shadows. That's the cartel. And not only that, what happened was I got myself a patron, right? I got someone who believes in foundups and said, I'm going to help you, and this person is an insider. He sat on and he started to share with me everything going on with Ethereum, kind of the greed and everything else, and it's what I would describe as the gaming that I used to enjoy playing now has gone online, and it's this all fintech. People basically launch coins, they inflate the coins, and they drop the coins, and then they sell off the coins. I mean, it's a game. The whole blockchain thing is a game right now, and there are these punks out there, the cartel, and they're in bed with and they're taking advantage of, think of it like the old gold rush, the wild, wild west. It's out there. The blockchain is the wild, wild west. So the opportunity is for foundups to build this collaborative network on Ethereum Classic. And ultimately, my goal is to become the vision for Ethereum Classic and to ultimately move it into its own thing called Core. Core would be kind of a transition. So in order for Core to happen, this is what I need to happen, right? And this is what I call the epic play. The odds of this happening is small, but it could happen, and it's up to the leadership of Ethereum Classic to contact me and talk to me and explore what I'm dealing with, because if foundup happens, Classic wins, right? Classic wins, because ultimately foundup changes the entire way our planet operates on a business system. The ecosystem of businesses completely change, and it goes from a centralized to a decentralized. And you can read my white paper, and you can press right here to read it, called The Selfish Startup. Or you can go to theselfishstartup.com, but you can press right here. I'll embed it in my crowdfunding page. Kind of interesting little trick I have. I embed things I want you to think, and then I can link it because it's part of crowdfunding for you to look at and get to. A little hack. I'm a hacker, right? I find ways around doing things like on YouTube. So if you're looking to learn more, I would impress you to Skype me. We are launching UndevCon 2, which is an unconference. We're looking for speakers to talk about this, to expose the cartel, to talk about the future of the blockchain. Everything rides on this blockchain. You need to become aware of this blockchain. You need to start opening your eyes, because everything is going to ride on, everything is moving to the blockchain. Everything. It is the new thing, and it's happening, in a very big way, and you need to be aware of it and understand it. And basically, that's it. My name is Mike Trout. Thanks for watching, and if you have any questions, Skype me. It's found up.